On the eerie night of Halloween, a chill wind swept through the desolate fields, rustling the dried leaves and sending shivers down the spines of those who dared to venture out. Among the shadows, 3 teenagers crept stealthily, their hearts pounding with excitement and mischief. For years, they had reveled in the thrill of pumpkin smashing. Their juvenile laughter echoing through the night as they each wielded sledgehammers with gleeful abandon. Each one of them would swing these gigantic mallets with reckless glee, savoring the explosive destruction that each blow would leave behind. Troy, who was easily the leader of the group, personally selected their final destination for the night. He had teased and dropped hints all night about the big surprise he had waiting for them, telling them this would be a night they would never forget. He led the group of friends down an old dirt road, ushering them to hurry up and go faster, until the 3 friends arrived at a lone farmhouse that stood sentinel at the edge of the fields. It was the abode of an aging farmer known for cultivating monstrous pumpkins, each one meticulously nurtured and sculpted to perfection for the grandest of competitions. This had been the first time that the trio had dare ventured to the old farmhouse, for all of the kids in the town knew of the old farmer's mean tendencies and horrible temper. Unbeknownst to the trio, the farmer had dedicated years of his life to nurturing his prized pumpkin, a colossal behemoth that had garnered whispers of possibly setting a new world record. But as the clock struck midnight, the echoing thud of their relentless blows shattered the tranquility of the night, reverberating through the farmer's dreams of triumph. With each resounding impact, the teenagers reveled in the explosive spectacle, their laughter merging with the splintering fragments of the farmer's shattered aspirations. The following day, as dawn broke, the farmer emerged from his abode, his weathered face etched with a haunted sorrow. A gut-wrenching cry tore through the morning stillness as he gazed upon the ruin of his magnum opus, the shattered remnants of what could have been a triumphant symbol of his life's toil. News of the farmer's devastating loss spread like wildfire, casting a somber pall over the community. The heartbreaking story of the old farmer was inescapable. The teens soon realized the rumors and whispers that they heard about the old angry farmer were false, and the reality was that he was just a sad, lonely old man who was now broken. 3 years had passed, and the group of friends stuck to their pumpkin smashing tradition. However, they avoided going to the old farmhouse simply out of guilt. Guilt that ate Troy alive, for it was he that personally selected going to the old farmhouse on that one fateful night. The guilt always became even more excruciating on Halloween, as it seemed to be the new yearly topic of news that was inescapable. Even though Troy had made his friends swear to never tell a soul about what they had done, guilt began to eat him alive, and he took it upon himself to go alone to the old farmer's house and confess about what he had done. Although it had been 3 years ago to the day, he felt that it was the right thing to do. With each step, Troy's heartbeat quickened, his mind racing with thoughts of remorse and restitution. He reached the weathered front door as he raised a trembling hand to knock on the door. Moments passed like an eternity before the door swung open, revealing the farmer, his weathered face etched with years of toil and wisdom. "Can I help you, son?" he asked, his voice gruff yet tempered with a hint of kindness. Troy swallowed hard, the lump in his throat threatening to stifle his confession. I need to tell you something," he managed, his voice barely above a whisper. The farmer's brow furrowed, a shadow of sadness crossing his eyes. "Well, it's a bit cold outside. Why don't you come on in and have a cup of tea with me while we talk?" His soft, unkind voice said, his gaze drifting to the vast expanse of the fields beyond. Troy sat in the weathered kitchen, his trembling hands clutching the warm mug of tea as he struggled to meet the farmer's gaze. A heavy silence settled over the room, broken only by the crackling of the fireplace and the rhythmic ticking of an old clock on the wall. "I'm sorry," Troy murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't know how much that pumpkin meant to you." The farmer regarded him with a somber intensity, his eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that surpassed the boundaries of mere words. "It wasn't just a pumpkin," he sighed, his voice heavy with the weight of dashed hopes and stolen dreams. "It was my chance to be remembered, to leave a mark on this town that goes beyond the toil of the fields. Troy's chest tightened with remorse as he listened to the farmer's words, the full impact of his thoughtless actions settling over him like a shroud. "I've been living with this guilt for so long," he confessed, his voice cracking with the weight of his confession. "We thought it was just a prank, something harmless. We never realized." As the farmer listened, a grim smile twisted his weathered features, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling mix of understanding and something more ominous. Troy's eyelids grew heavy, his head drooping as an unexpected drowsiness washed over him. Panic surged through his veins, but it was as if his body had been lured into a trance, a creeping numbness that stifled his ability to resist. The room seemed to blur, the flickering firelight casting strange shadows that danced around him. The farmer's laughter reverberated through the air, each chuckle carrying an unsettling undercurrent of malevolence. "I knew it was you all along," he mused, his voice a haunting echo in the dimly lit room. "I also knew one day you'd come to confess. I've been waiting for this." Troy's consciousness flickered, a dim spark struggling to stay alight amidst the encroaching darkness. He tried to lift his head, to protest, but the weight of his guilt and the mysterious lethargy pinned him to his seat. With a final chilling cackle, the farmer's figure wavered, melting into the shadows that seemed to swallow him whole. Troy awoke in a daze. He had no idea how much time had passed. Troy's heart thundered in his chest, a surge of panic coursing through his veins as he struggled against the restraints that bound him. He had been buried into the earth, covered to his neck into the cold soil. The earth pressed in on all sides, its suffocating weight a relentless reminder of his dire predicament. He tried to cry out for help, but it was pointless as his mouth had been gagged tightly shut. His eyes, however, were not blindfolded, as there was no need. Neatly placed on top of his head was a rather large, hollowed-out pumpkin. With every labored breath, the sickly sweet aroma of the pumpkin engulfing his head filled his nostrils, mingling with the stale earth and fear. What felt like hours must have passed with what sounded like the occasional groups of kids trick-or-treating could be heard scuffling by. And with each group that passed, Troy would try with all of his might to scream or wiggle free, but each effort was futile, no matter how hard he tried. Even the passing sounds of trick-or-treaters faded as Halloween was soon coming to an end as the streets fell near silent. The eerie silence of his entombed cell, made out of the earth and hollowed-out pumpkin, came to a sudden and abrupt end when off in the distance he heard what sounded like a faint thump against the ground. And soon shortly after, there was another thump. But this time it was a bit louder, and it was accompanied with what sounded like laughter. Laughter that Troy instantly recognized, as it was the same devilish laughter that he and his friends have shared together for so many years, while destroying every pumpkin that they had come across. With every thunderous blow, the trapped teenager's sense of hope dwindled, replaced by terror and utter fear. His struggles became more frantic, fueled by a surge of panic and the harrowing realization that his fate was entwined with the very pumpkins he had callously obliterated in the past. Time stood still as the panic in Troy gave way to an unsettling surrender to his fate. Regret coiled its way around every fiber of his being. Helpless, all Troy could do was think about that fateful night, 3 years ago, and how he wished he had never stepped foot on that old farmer's property. And then, there was one final